Beloveds, welcome. Welcome to Nurture the Soul. I am your host today, Reverend Ellie Hutchison, and I am the Minister for Congregational and Community Engagement with the Faith Info team. And we are a part of the Love of Church at the national setting of the United Church of Christ. Nurture the Soul is a weekly webinar that provides our local churches and faith practitioners with multitudes of practical, educational, innovative, and formational resources in which to engage with the critical topics of our time, to center the care and the education for the people of God. From cultural organizing to congregational leadership, from worship and theology to resourcing small and rural churches, from the ministry of youth and children to a wide range of justice issues, we highlight and feature guest artists, authors, theologians, and key leaders. Nurture the Soul is an attempt for us to stay relevant and current in how our gospel is alive for each of us at this time. We hope that this space is a space for connection, community, and nurture, because we believe in the collective movement towards the world that God imagines for all of us. So we invite you to join us every Thursday at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Nurture the Soul, and from time to time, look for special offerings. You can find a full list of our upcoming digital programs at www.ucc.org/events, or go to any of our social media platforms. And friends and beloveds, if you are moved by the conversations that we have today, if what we are offering you helps to enhance your ministry, your soul, your brain, whatever, we hope that you consider donating to the annual fund of the United Church of Christ. And you can text the UCC to the number 41444. It is your prayerful and financial support that helps programs like this be the essential work of the United Church of Christ. And so we thank you for supporting us, and really thank you so much for being here today. This is the final of a pre-recorded 3-part series that highlights the ministries of the United Church of Christ. And it's this particular group, the Council of Racial and Ethnic Ministries, known as COREM, and it's comprised of ethnic focus ministries. COREM stands for the Council for Racial and Ethnic Ministries and is a ministry of the racial and ethnic groups of the United Church of Christ. And it comprises of our United Black Christians, who you heard from last week, ministers for racial, social, economic justice, the Pacific Islander Asian-American Ministries that you heard from 2 weeks ago, our Colectivo de UCC Latinx Ministries that you'll hear from today, and the Council for the American Indian Ministry and the United Samoan Ministries. COREM advocates for the racial and ethnic concerns within and beyond the United Church of Christ. And you can check out more information on our website. And today's pre-recording for me is such an exciting time. I have been wanting to connect to this group for a while now, and I'm glad that Nurture the Soul is providing this tool and resource in which to do so. And so Taylor and Rev Yinessa, I invite you to the program. Introduce us. Who are you? What is the Colectivo? I can't wait. I can't wait. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Reverend Ellie. My name is Yinessa Romero. I am a reverend working for Cathedral of Hope, United Church of Christ here in Dallas, and currently moderator of the Colectivo de Latinx Ministry.
Thank you, Ellie, for having us on. My name is Taylor Ramage. My pronouns are she, her, and ella. I am in the Central Atlantic Conference in the Baltimore area, going to First and St. Stephen's UCC in Baltimore. I'm a layperson, and on Colectivo, I serve as the secretary.
Yeah, we are so excited to be here in this forum. We have been listening to the previous presentations of our peers, members of COREM, and greetings to them and to all the audience with the Latine accent or Hispanic accent. So, so we want to share with the audience who we are and what is in our minds these days, right? First and foremost, for all of those who do not know what Colectivo is, as you mentioned, Reverend Ellie, we are part of COREM. So we are ethnic group within the UCC, and in the General Assembly 2019, there was a resolution that confirmed that we are an underrepresented ethnic group of the United Church of Christ, and it was formed Colectivo. But everything didn't started in 2019. Our history as a Hispanic community in the UCC is way long to the fact that there has been conversation that probably with our siblings from Puerto Rico, it could be one of the founding ethnic groups, from the very beginning of the recent history of the UCC. But coming to a more recent time, there was a council of Hispanic ministry that it was operating to promote the Latinx identities and theologies and diversities for a while. And that council became a transitional team and that rethought and restructured the way that this group operated. But the council that lasts for many years were operating with regions, different regions and in collaboration, including regions of Puerto Rico and Central America and South America, and the same in the same way working with association and conferences. So in 2019, the Colectivo was formed. Then 2020 came, the COVID, and we have been providing support to our community online. So in the past Assemblea, the recent officers were elected, and I was part of the transition team, and first vice moderator in the previous term, and now moderator serving to the community. I am gonna tell Taylor to describe a little bit what she does here in our group.
Sure. So currently I serve as the secretary, but I've actually been part of the Colectivo Executive Committee, I believe, since about 2021. Time blurs for me. I feel like I've been involved for quite some time. But I was a member at large, and then as Yinessa mentioned, last November, I believe, was our Asamblea. That's our yearly gathering of our members to vote in new folks and go over sort of what our vision is for the year. So that is when I officially became the secretary. And so one of the things I do, just in addition to keeping the minutes and sending that out, is I curate a quarterly newsletter that we've started to send out to our members. And I guess I'll just, since I'm talking about it, I'll go ahead and share what that looks like now. If you just give me a few moments to sort of there we go. Can I just get some confirmation that you're seeing it on the big screen? Okay. So this is our most recent newsletter that went out in June. It's our Q2 newsletter. And before I get into what this specific issue was about, just some general things about how are we approaching this and what sort of content goes in here. First of all, you can see from this first spread, it's bilingual. That is very important to us to be able to work and provide resources and content connection both in English and in Spanish. The Latinx people are a vast array of people, from first generation immigrants to second and third generation US born folks. And so we want to try to represent and accommodate those different needs as best we can. So some of the types of offerings that we've had in our newsletter so far, we've had some spiritual reflections. Our first issue came out during Lent, and so we had like a Lenten devotional as part of that issue. We also have shared statistics about like demographics of our people, our community in the UCC. I believe it actually is in this issue, or maybe the previous one. I might be getting them mixed up. Where we actually have some stats from Yinessa's church, Cathedral of Hope, about the gender breakdown, sexuality breakdown, occupations, with the goal of answering like who is it that is in our churches, like who are the Latinx people that are part of the UCC. And so Yinessa's church, Cathedral of Hope, was a sample to help share some of that information. We also share in the newsletter any upcoming events that our Latina churches might be doing. So that means that I would like to receive any promotional materials for anything that our Latina churches or Latina pastors are doing, and I'll provide a way for people to do that in a second. We've had retirement announcements and also like announcements of new ordained people who have come on. So far, these are the types of things that we're trying to do, and I think one of the main goals of this newsletter too is to just start to become a place where the Latina people feel like there's some sort of central connection that can happen. At the very least, a place where they can say, hey, this is happening in my church and I want to share it. This is an avenue for that. And then as we grow, we hope that we can be able to provide more resources for more churches to begin to answer this really complex question of like, what does it look like to welcome and accept Latina people in UCC churches? That's like, I think that's just such a big question. So I'll just page through this issue so you can get an idea. We usually start with some type of like welcome, like letter to the editor, like you see in magazines and things like that. And then we get into something a little bit more specific. In this particular issue, we had a big focus on Yinessa's church, Cathedral of Hope. So we have information about it there in both English and Spanish. We have some graphic representations of the particular data that Yinessa provided. We have some key questions and takeaways for this. So we'll have, for whatever the main focus is of an issue, we'll have like several pages dedicated to it. This is an example of a page where the content, it's like a lot of content. So we'll have one single page like this in English followed by the same content, but just in Spanish. So I don't know if, there are other folks out there who maybe are trying to figure out a way to do communications in a bilingual way. This is what I came up with to do it. If this format looks like something that works for anybody else, then feel free to take a page out of this newsletter and go ahead and use it that way. So yeah, we had a retirement announcement here, a celebration of somebody new stepping into a role. So we have a call, of course, to submit articles and comments. So now if you're seeing this, if you are a Latina pastor or somebody in a church, whether it's a Spanish-speaking church, a Latina church, you're like the only one in your congregation, which is very true for a lot of us. Please email. You can see on the screen, secretary@ucclatinxministries.org. If you email that email with your content. It can be super short. It doesn't have to be like a huge long thing. You can tell us about what your church is doing to promote, celebrate, include Hispanic people. You can tell us about any special events that your church might be having, anything like that. In the same vein, if you're just interested in receiving this quarterly newsletter, the best way right now to sort of subscribe to it is if you go ahead and you email secretary at UCC Latinx Ministries.org. From there, we can then add you to the email list, and it's completely free. You can, of course, choose to become a member of Colectivo, but you don't have to be a paid member of Colectivo in order to receive this newsletter. Just simply email that email, and we'll be able to add you to that list.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Yeah, as you can. Here we have some of the members.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And do we have another page after that?
No, that's it. That's it for this issue.
So we are so proud of Taylor. Taylor is a person with many talents. You know, she produced podcasts for one of our partners groups before, and now she is in charge of compiling and helping us to produce this newsletter. And one of the objectives of the newsletter, as we were mentioned before, is to strengthen our relationship among the Latinx community, you know, increase visibility. So one day I sent to the general minister and president, and she replied, I read the newsletter. So that's very encouraging, you know, the people from various audiences and across the UCC are learning about who we are. And the importance of this is not just like we are producing this newsletter because we want to do something. We believe it is extremely crucial for us as a church if we have the mission, nationally and globally to spread the gospel to all people. We need to realize the importance of create more programs that target the population. And if you Google right now and you say, what is the US demographics? You will see that the Latine or Hispanic demographics is larger than the African American and Black community, just to put an example. And there is no secret that, the UCC, a lot of people say is pretty white and it has some Black. But when we talk about it has some Latino flavor, not so much. And that's how we feel, right? And I think there is a lot of opportunities to grow in understanding of the diversities of our Latino community and of the potential of for the UCC and for the UCC at large and for the local churches. Right, to create programs, to have a theology and a message from the pulpit that is really a reflection of the communities that we have right now and the communities that are outside that are looking for a church where they can call home and they can find a community that welcome them, welcome us as we are, and help us to grow within the church. So that's the key, impulse that we have, because we love our UCC church. But at the same time, as Taylor was mentioned, right now we feel we are creating these programs among the Latino people that know about us, and we are trying to increase visibility. One of the charts that she showed briefly, that is from my church, because we have a completely Spanish worship service, is showing in that chart that the composition of our Latino community comes from different places. The majority are from Mexico, because I am in Dallas. Texas has a lot of migrants from Mexico, but the rest of the church, we have many people recently from Venezuela, from Cuba, from Colombia, people from the Caribbean island, as myself, Dominican, Puerto Rico. And what is that? How we come to a UCC church? What are we looking for? So these are important questions that we need to understand. And so for us, more than ever, to empower the Colectivo, to support the Colectivo effort, to be in collaboration with us, to reach out to us with questions is very, very important in many areas, including member in discernment and the MESA team and from the theology and definition. I was part of the Manual on Church working team, but when you see from A to Z in the UCC, we should be part of the conversation in some aspects because of the potential and because of what we are thinking ahead of time, So saying that, we have, this year with some plans. I know Roberto mentioned, okay, we want to know more about what is coming up, and are you planning a gathering, similar to Pam, and what is about that? So originally we were planning, we are planning to gather. Our first idea was to have the meeting in person, to review what we have been doing, where our attention needs to be placed at, and what we can do better, what are the challenges, and how we can continue in collaboration with partners, organizations, and works with Immigration Coalition, with the Disciple of Christ, with other COREM members, and with other settings of the church. For various reasons, we decided that it's better to still for this year to have that meeting online. So we are going to have that meeting next month, which I am very excited for that. So I am going to pause here to see if Taylor wants to comment something about that, or if you, Reverend Ellie, has a question for us.
Well, yeah, I'll just say that, our hope for just visioning into the future is, again, just to clarify how we can continue to connect our Latina people, because Yinessa mentioned being in Dallas and having a larger population of Latina people, but I believe I'm mostly correct in saying that for the most part in the UCC, a lot of times, if you are a Latinx person in your congregation, you're very often the only one. And that's a pretty common experience because again, I believe, if I'm remembering my statistics correctly, we're something like 0.4% of the UCC demographics, something like that.
Yes,
White
0.3 in the last official statistics report, and that is in our first newsletter.
Yes.
If you want a reflection about that, go or request the two newsletters, and you can read it. And it's a deep concern for us.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry.
So right. So because of that, it can feel very isolating sometimes, and then sometimes, you're not even sure, like, well, what is, again, I bring up this question because, like, I just always constantly personally have it. What does it look like for a UCC church to be inclusive of Latinx people? I am somebody who, my experience is that I assimilate well. And sometimes I try to resist against that in some ways. It's a whole thing. But like that's not a question that, like, I as an individual can, like, decree an answer to. And it's going to look different because, again, like, our experience is so vast and diverse. Even between Yinessa and I have very different experiences, but we're both on this same team working together toward this goal of figuring out like how can we connect our people, and how can we be a voice that is helpful, and then helpful for helping the UCC to help us. Like there are all these like kind of big things in front of us, and I think too, just going back to the point Yinessa was making about just the wider demographics of the United States. Now, I don't have numbers for other church denominations, but I think that probably most other Protestant denominations and of course the Catholics have a larger percentage of Latina people than the UCC does. Now, again, I might be wrong on that. That's just kind of my sense anecdotally. And I think that should really raise the question in everybody in the UCC of like, okay, how is it that what is it that we need to do to serve this community? How is it that we can be a place where some of these folks can come to church too?
Yeah, absolutely. And they are Latine pastors, clergies and members, and there is no doubt that we are, a group that is out there. Percentage-wise, we are statistically, if we trust in that report, is less than 1%, and this is really quite something. But wherever we are, and the reports out there, we are such a hardworking people, since we come to this country, or we have been part of this country, because as Taylor mentioned, we are second generation, third generation, but our identity are Hispanic. How do we feel that we are part of a church that speak to me, and that's a very big question. But at the same time, as I referred earlier, are we part of the conversation in our local churches when we are taking decisions about theology, about where the budget is spent? Are we part of those who are being included or not? And this sounds like political questions, but people in power needs to realize, really say, hey, to be truth, to speak truth to power, where are the money? Where are we investing the things? And another thing is, we say, in different forums, please, language shouldn't be a barrier, right? So if you have leaders in your congregation, if you have people who wants to be part of the member and discernment, and they are not applying to be licensed ministers, or they are not applying for their credentials to be validated because of the language barrier, right? We need to reach out to people and say, hey, can we have somebody in the Colectivo that can be a companion, that can be a bridge, that can be a translator, or that you can sit with this person that mainly is Spanish and help them through the process? We are out there. We are a Colectivo of Latinx ministry. To be honest, we have said that in various forums, nobody really feels motivated to call to us. And we are open. We are open in the same way that we are open to present in our newsletter celebrations. We are open to share best practices, to share messages of inclusion or theological reflections about Lent. For example, well, in the same way, I say that about the endorsement, right? For to be a UCC Latinx clergy. But I just want to mention Hispanic Heritage Month is coming next month, right? And I'm sure many white churches don't know really what to do. Or maybe they say, wow, is this Cinco de Mayo similar to Cinco de Mayo or what? They are those questions like, should we celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month in our church? what exactly that means. What can I include? Is that to have a bilingual, or if it is bilingual, is all the music in English, but then I have this sentence translated in Spanish just to say that we are inclusive? Well, we can do better than that. That's our goal. So with this, we are not in the position right now to disclose much of what is going to happen in the meeting next month with our group, but it is important to share with this audience. Our group is disclosed in our website. We have a conference minister, Lorraine Ceniceros, who is part of our group. We have Crystal, who is a treasurer. Yeah, she's still the treasurer officially. We have people in Florida. Marcelino is one of our members. Maria Vives is in New York. Ali is in Texas. We have Steven, who is in California. So we have different people. Sana is in Minneapolis? No, what is that called? State?
Minnesota, I believe.
Minnesota.
If we're wrong, she's gonna.
Yes.
Sorry, Sana, if we got that wrong.
Yeah, I just remember it says a very cold place to me. So we want to share that it's not just Taylor and me. We have a group of people, and we have been very diligent in meeting every month and putting our efforts to bring this cause. Also, we have our past moderator, Edwin, who was the moderator before, and other collaborators like Linda Jaramillo and other pastors that are also in collaboration with us when we need it.
Wonderful. I have pages of questions, but we have limited time. And so I want to make sure that I just follow up with you all individually. And I want to say thank you. Thank you for taking time out of your busy ministry, whether it be lay ministry or not, to make sure that you get to highlight the communities that are doing really wonderful work, to be a resource and a space where folks can gather that may not feel always welcomed and included in all of those settings. So first, I would like to invite to hold space for each of you for that ministry and just to extend my gratitude. So thank you. Yeah, so speaking of support, what does, and I'm going to speak in PWC language, predominantly white congregations, right? PWI, we always talk about predominantly white institutions, but PWC, what does it look like for a predominantly white congregation to support the Colectivo and or folks in their own congregations that may fall under that that category of being not being the minority category in regards to, there's 3 folks here that I identify this way versus the 35 that identify this way. So how is it that we can support them and you in this work?
Yes. Well, first, the more straightforward answer is to become a member, right? To go to our website and support us financially and be engaged. Second, they can ask for the newsletter and get informed about what we are doing and see the type of questions that we are doing. Third, they can refer their local congregants to us. They can establish an intentional relationship. They can email us and say, hey, senior pastor, lay leaders, or whoever is, assign a person in their local church to overseeing or strategically put this in the agenda. And they say, okay, let's have in our meetings a topic that sets Hispanic, or let's say Latine or Latinx, and keep that in their mind, not just like it is a reminder Hispanic Heritage Month, but it's part of their community, you know, and if they keep that demographics in the radar, you know, and how they can serve better, they automatically will say, okay, what are their needs? And just use us as a resource if they have questions. Even sometimes people say, how do I say this? Or it is correct to ask a Puerto Rican these questions versus a Venezuelan. You know, it's very complex sometimes, but just to clarify that not all the Latine people respond to the same thing is a great start.
Right. And to add to that, so I'm part of a predominantly a PWC. And as I mentioned earlier, there's a level in which I assimilate fairly well in that culture. One of the things that you can do, and I think this applies to like anybody in any church, but you have, say, these three individuals in Yinessa's examples. Well, what are those individuals like gifts that they have, right? So as an example, I'm a musician, I'm a guitar player, and I sing, and I'm part of the music ministry in my church. So, you know, every once in a while, the music director will be like, hey, Taylor, we have this Spanish song that we're going to do in the service. Will you sing it in Spanish? That's happened for the past couple of years around Christmas. There's usually one where she's like, hey, or she's even asked me like, hey, is there like a traditional Puerto Rican Christmas song that we can sing instead of just like Silent Night, but in Spanish? So, and this is a very small way, and it fits with like what I, as just an individual singular person, can offer. So I think sometimes the question like might get like super overwhelming and intimidating, and you automatically think like, oh, we have to have a fully bilingual service. Like you're not going to get there overnight, but you can think of these ways of like, okay, what is the larger mission of this congregation? What are the individual gifts? My church, again, for example, we are very focused on spirituality and the arts. So we have a rotating art gallery that's in our sanctuary. And there's also ways that just in general throughout the year that the sanctuary is artistically adorned, and that is part of like our worship life. So there's, if your church is also like that, there's opportunity there of like, okay, well, what about some Latine artists, like or fabric makers or potters? Like if that is a way that your church just normally does artsy kind of stuff like that, well, you know, you can start to seek out those things, and those are, in my view, those are pretty small and simple steps to take to get there. But again, like, it also takes knowing like, who do you have in your congregation? And then of course, like, well, gosh, like we don't have any Latine people in our congregation. So what do we do? Well, like with anything, there are always resources you can reach out to, and like respectful ways to still include these cultures. Even if you don't have the people in your spaces yet, what would it look like if you just kind of started acting like they were already there? And so, because you never know who's going to walk in your church on a Sunday morning. Right. And so imagine if they could already like see that and be like, oh, maybe this can be a place where I can be, and then more of my community could be, you know, those are the things that just I think about with who I am, where I am, my own gifts and experience and all that stuff. So it doesn't have to be like these huge overhauls right away. It can be these small steps to begin with.
Yes, that is, I could go down a rabbit hole with all of that. That's fantastic. I think, you know, there's two things that I want to talk about, but I want to build off a little bit, Taylor, of what you were saying, talking about resources. What are some possible resources for congregations that are interested in expanding their internal and external ministry work to include the voices and the experiences and not just as I always I'm very careful when wanting to invite people in to share stories. That's lovely, but what Yinessa said earlier is, how do you give us a seat at the table to make the decisions? So what are the resources that you can recommend to faith communities that are looking to move more out of that charity model of, oh, everybody is welcome here, and then we're going to put that one person of color or bodies of culture, oh, you've come 3 weeks in a row, do you want to be on our church leadership team? What are some ways that you can recommend to an embodied discipleship, if you will?
Well, I'm just going to share the no-brainer that we have right now in our website, which is in our website, we have a page that's called resources, and we start with empowering people. Well, we have the link over there for the Hector Lopez Scholarship, which we are partnering with. I mean, if you recognize somebody that has the potential to grow, just coach that person and go all the way through. I am now a clergy because somebody believed that my volunteer work for many years has some potential to go somewhere, and I was not planning, because this is my third career and last career from here to retirement, guys. But it is important to do that at many levels, So we have a page in our Colectivo website that contains several publications and videos and things of that nature to work on that. So I know we have limited time, but I don't know, Taylor, if you want to about that, and obviously reach out to us, because resources will vary depending of the need, right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Yinessa, I think you covered it. Check out the resource tab on the website and reach out to us, and because every circumstance is different.
And I'm in the Southwest Conference, and I was a former member in discernment, so I got to go through a lot of the racial justice training and the boundary training, all of the things that the MIDs are required. And one of the things that I found myself doing is resourcing the facilitators with Indigenous and Latinx resources, because so much of it was just, well, we only have to worry about racism this way or sexism this way, as if there's singular groups. And I say all of that to say, I went to Puerto Rico last year, and I was using Spanish to be able to order food, and they looked at me, they're like, are you from Mexico? Because that's not our Spanish. And so when you said there's a difference, right, I was like, yeah, I had no idea, right, even in my best attempts. But yeah, I think that, as we continue, and one of the questions I had, but we're going to save that for another time, is the importance of gathering data. And I want to just let the congregations and those who might be watching, the UCC actually does a pretty good job at collecting the data of the local church. If you aren't a part of a local church admin team, this is something that we spend quite a bit of time reporting on our congregation, so that way we can be a denomination that God is still speaking into, and so data is important in a lot of ways, right?
Absolutely. And I'm glad, Reverend Ellie, that you mentioned this, because one of the tasks that we are doing right now that has been I'm working with one of our executive team members, Marcelino and Maria, directly, is to help to clean up the Latino database. But if people from the audience know that they have some Hispanic people as part of the database and they want to connect that with us, feel free. Or if they say, hey, can you connect with the Colectivo, and they want to update your information. And it is important because when we don't know, it is difficult, right, to approach them. So it is for many, many reasons very important. And to reach out, people needs to understand the importance of making bridges of collaboration. And we speak about inclusion all the time, but sometimes people are afraid to ask or to, I don't know how to. So we are very open, and Latino people are usually very friendly. Not everybody is the same, but we in general are very open to be in collaboration and with connection with others.
You know, you bring up a great thing, and something that I'm focusing on as the Minister for Congregational Community Engagement moving forward is how to have conversations, and not necessarily conversations that are centered on you know, oh, I think this way, tell me how you think, let's meet in the middle. It is, I know nothing, and this is what I do know, and this is what I know I need to continue to learn on, right? Or continue to learn about. And so I think about kind of what you both have offered is, it is scary. It is scary when you are a kind person that has a lot of love and wants to do right all of the time and not cause harm, to accidentally cause harm, even with our best intentions. And so how do we have those conversations? How do we invite people into the spaces where we can have authentic conversations that look at restoration, transformative theologies, ideologies that move towards an understanding of perhaps reparations of what it looks like, what God is calling God's people to be. And so I want to thank you again for opening your space up for that, right? Because I already know a whole bunch of pastors that I'm going to send your way, at least to the website's way. I know that I just at the beginning of this emailed you, Taylor, and said, please add me to your email list, because I want to get that newsletter. I want to see what our congregations are doing, and those nice entry-level steps to celebrate the gifts that each people have is a really good way to go. So Taylor, thank you for that. Any last thoughts or comments before I bring us to a close and invite you to do a benediction for us? Any last things you think is important to share?
Taylor?
I think just connect with us. And, you know, if you are a Latino, Latina, Hispanic person, whichever language that you choose to identify yourself, reach out to us, because you're not the only one in this whole UCC that's part of this culture. And we want to come together, and we want to communicate, find out what it is that we need, and how, and what it is that we as a collective really have to offer the UCC, because we do have a lot to offer. It's just a matter of all of us finding each other and putting that forward.
Absolutely. And well, I think Taylor said it correctly, you know, to connect with us. I wish that this pre-recording and when it becomes, you know, live, reach many people, that these videos, not just ours, but also the other ethnic groups, I think it can be access to a broader audience, because there are many people subscribe, but I guess we are so busy that we don't find time to really learn about everything that has been producing and all the potential. So we have many things to offer, but we are just so caught up in our immediate, that week task that I guess we are always busy, but we need to find time for each other. So people, if they see us at the General Senate, please come to our table, engage, ask questions, tell us what is your concern, your questions, and that will be a big plus for not just us as the Colectivo, but for us as a community that wants to be part of each other. And if you have a Latino in your congregation, invite them for a coffee or just reach out to them and promote that collaboration.
Amen to all of that. I'm just so excited for what the future holds for all of us. One of my favorite writing professors, who I still take a writing class, says to me, "Wow, Ellie, what a time to be alive." Right? We are on the precipice of so much amazingness, and it's folks like you, Yinessa and Taylor, who have helped to bring and want to invite others along with them in that journey. And we are so incredibly thankful, completely thankful for that. And so I just want to take this opportunity to just thank all of you for being here. We got to hear from Colectivo about what it is that they have discerned, how they're inviting us along, inviting us to engage with them in deeper ways, whether that be through email, through the resources that they provide, to the General Synod, to all of these kind of things. And so there are no more excuses to say, I didn't know. We have a version better than the internet right here in live form. And so I just want to thank each and every one of you for joining us for this webinar series, not just today, but over the past few weeks. And for the leadership of Reverend Roberto Ochoa, what a gift he is to the local church, to our conferences, our associations, and then for me here at the national ministry setting. So thank you for joining us, and what a gift it is. And so we look forward to being with you next week when we delve a little bit into our economic justice. We're coming up on Labor Day. We're coming up towards September. And so I want to invite you all to think about some of those webinars that we have with our Minister for Economic Justice. But before I send us off, I'd like to invite our presenters one more time to send us off in a benediction, if you will.
Gonna say it in Spanish or maybe bilingual. Que la paz de nuestro Creador esté con todos nosotros y nos siga abriendo nuestras mentes y nuestros corazones para que el amor fluya entre todos. May God, our Creator, continue infusing grace upon us so we can open our minds and hearts and we can find each other with love.
Amen and amen, beloveds. Thank you so much, and blessings to each of you. Be well.
Siblings in Christ, if you were moved by this conversation, if what's been offered here has helped enhance your ministry or has nurtured your soul for the journey, please consider donating to the annual fund of the United Church of Christ by texting UCC to 41444. Your support will help to provide programs like this, which are an essential part of our ministries in the United Church of Christ. Thank you for your support. Be blessed on your journey and know that you are not alone. We are holding you in prayer. Amen.